in the industry, how did you advance your career? And what advice would you offer to the women and men in the audience who are interested in a successful career in the mobile space? And I do think you've had one, by the way.
I actually have to say it was a little bit bad luck. It's I didn't really plan it. I took the job that I found most fascinating, most interesting, that allowed me at the same time to have the family. I mean, I have 3 children, so for me it was important to find a job that I could do both. And I found one side interesting in this, and then it's often a question actually of traveling. If you work in a stable place, it's fine, so how much are you willing to travel or not? And the advantage of being here in Silicon Valley, everybody comes here, so you get to here. So for me, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah?
Wow. Next door, I feel so unlucky. I think, my advice is that don't work with a technology company, especially not Korean one.
That's fair. How did you overcome that?
Just work really hard, and I think that for me personally, we already work very well with guys, right? For me, I think that my very important stage of my career, I think that it was all women managers who helped me to go through a lot of difficulties.
So you had good mentors, yeah?
So I think that working with women very well, from my personal experience, that's very important.
Outstanding.
Let's see. So before I moved into the mobile industry, I worked in the web industry. Before that, I worked in traditional advertising. So to me, the frontier has always been interesting. I kind of jumped into the whole .com boom when everybody else did, kind of late 90s. And after I did that, I started to see, mobile content and mobile content consumption become, more and more prevalent. And so to me, the cutting edge of where technology is going and where consumption of content is going has always been interesting. I would say, a sincere interest is important because it is, as you can probably tell from tonight, a relatively complex industry. There's a lot of competition. Even if you're in a very supportive and culture as Adobe is, it's a great environment to work in. The industry is very competitive, and there's always changing dynamics. Every morning there's some type of news that you or your executives will need to react to. So I think you need to sincerely like it, and if you're interested in it, and the ambiguity and the constant change energizes you, then I think it's probably a good fit. I'd say also I'm not technical by training. I have a linguistics background, I have an MBA, but I've never been an engineer. I can build a website, and that's about all I can do, and it's a terrible website. I'd say just ask a lot of questions to the people around you. If there are things that you don't understand, just be really open. If it's a big meeting where you don't want to do that, then find some friends in the company or friends in the industry, take them aside and just do a whiteboard session and ask them to explain to you how things work. So I think that's a constant process of learning.
Great, thank you. Rick? You get the next question. We're gonna do one last closing question from the panel. That'll give us some time to take some of your questions. But before we go get the Q&A from you, I want to ask each of the panelists, starting with Rick, since we left him out of the last question, to please share one valuable piece of information or one learning that you think you want our audience to take away from tonight.
Okay, I shudder when I hear that they want to take mobile phones out of schools. I think it should be the exact opposite. I think they should teach classes on how to use the phone, because what an amazing tool. Along with that comes etiquette, like turning the phone off and knowing what to discuss in public and so forth, but that's another topic that we could spend all night on. But I am fascinated by the educational aspects of this phone. I'll get a little plug in for Abby right now. We're one of the world's largest OCR companies. And OCR has never been sexy until last week when Eric Schmidt talked about it in his keynote in Spain. And when he held up a phone, took a picture of a German menu and translated it to English. There are 1 billion people in the world studying English. How do you learn a language? Repetition, over and over. Have a device in your pocket. You have 10 minutes on the bus, 5 minutes in the queue. It's the opportunity to practice. So I want you to take away from here what an educational tool this is, and that young kids, and it should have a phone, and I think it's a responsibility of the parents to know when to give them that phone, teach them how to use it, and let them realize what an amazing tool they have in their pocket. When I was in college, I carried around pockets full of nickels, because if I saw something in a book, I had to go put, in a copy machine. Now you can sit there on your phone, look things up. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing to me. So I'd like people to start thinking more and more about the educational aspects of these phones.